Hello everyone, I'm Larry Hamilton. Welcome to my YouTube painting channel. Thank you for watching. Thanks for being here with this live broadcast. I appreciate everyone who's already signed on. Today we're going to do a couple of watercolor paintings. One is a large mountain, sort of a sunset scene of a large mountain, and second one will be a much smaller painting of a blue heron. And I'm going to do it on two different kinds of watercolor paper, and about the same size. They'll both be about 11 by 14, but we're going to use 300 pound cold press for the first painting, and we're going to use 140 pound hot press for the second painting. So it'll be my first experiment with hot press paper and trying to do some really fine details on that type of paper. So let me go show you my photographs and how I developed the sketch on my computer, and I'll be right back here and we'll get started. Okay everyone, I'm at my computer now, and I want to show you what I started with for this big mountain scene. This is a scene from I picked up from pixabay.com. It's a website that has free, copyright-free images that you can use for commercial purposes, for however you want to use them. And I hope everybody can hear me. If your sound is okay, please, a couple people let me know. I think it should be fine. So here's the original image I started with, and this is from someone who records themselves as Fights Photos. That's on pixabay.com. Very beautiful, big mountain scene, and it's almost too big. And so I cropped it down, as I usually do some of these. I crop it down to get it to fit the 11 by 14 format, which is what we're painting on today, which is normal. And I also did a little bit of a Frankenstein thing with this. I took the small cabin or building that was on the right side of the original painting and cut it out and moved it on top of this one to put it on the right side, so we have a little more light reflectivity on the right side. You can actually see a little bit of the photograph there that I shrunk down and laid on top another layer of the original photo. So I'll try to put both of those in this painting, but the painting is really going to be about the mountains and the sky, and trying to get some real reflectivity out of this sunset. I did my value map using not just 3 colors of gray, but I threw in a few other colors to kind of see if I could match some of the sky colors there. And it is pretty much 3 values, maybe 4, I guess 3 values. So that's what I will use to kind of guide my thinking on the values in this painting. And then I also have a sketch, and the sketch here is, it's on my website already. There are links below in the picture you're looking at for the sketches and the video, the value maps, and the original reference photo. And so we have that to work from, and then I'll come back in a couple, after we finish the first painting, I'll come back and take you through the second painting that we're going to go through. So let me get back over to my easel now, and we'll go through the paints and the brushes and get started painting. So hang on, and I'll be right back on my easel. Okay, I'm back here, and you saw a picture of my palette there while I was moving from my computer back to my easel. And so I'll go back to that now, and we will go through the brushes and the paints, and I'll tell you what I've got here to work from. So this is my palette, my Sterling Edwards palette, and normally I have an array of Sterling Edwards brushes lined up here. You see a couple of them over here. These are a couple of flats that I may use, but I also have a range of brushes here that I've told you about before, I believe. I have these, they're called the Quill Mop brush, sort of a synthetic squirrel. I have a little assortment here of these from Trekel.com, which is where I've been trying some new brushes lately to see how they operate differently in watercolors. And I also have a small assortment of finer brushes, thinner brushes that are also by Watercolor.com. These are Kolinsky sable brushes. I've never had many sable brushes, but I have a small assortment here of sizes from 8 down to about size 3000. So I may use a few of those brushes when we get to the second painting of the Blue Heron, because there's some fine detail work that I need to do around the around that image, and I may be able to use some of these fine brushes. So I'm certainly not going to use all those brushes, but I may use several of them. So I have those, and I have my mop brushes. I'm going to use probably one of those. I probably won't use all of those either. But let me go around the palette now and tell you about the paints. This is my standard set of paints that I've been using for quite a while for watercolors. These are My Merry Blue watercolors, and this first one here is neutral tint, followed by my primary blue cyan, ultramarine blue, primary violet, bluish is in there now, crimson lake. I have primary red magenta and cadmium red. And in my earth tones, I have burnt sienna, I have raw sienna, and I have yellow ochre. A couple of green tones here. I have cupric green, and that's My Merry Blue's name for something that's a lot like a viridian green. I have sap green. A couple of yellows. I have a lemon yellow, I have a primary yellow, then a couple of browns. I have burnt umber and still to grain brown. And I have an orange here that's called Avignon orange. And then I also have over here lamp black and titanium white. I rarely use either of those, but I have them there in case I want to use them. I did a little painting with some snow in it recently, and I got my toothbrush out and put it in this white paint and splattered it on, and made a nice finish to that painting. So that is the paints and the brushes, and I want to line up my screen for you now so you can see this, and hopefully I'll get myself out of the picture now and have just the painting surface and the palette. Okay, I think I'm pretty well lined up here. There we go. All right, I want to make sure you see the whole thing and not be cut off. Okay, let's get started on this. I want to pull out my my quill mop brush here, and the brushes, Richard, for your information, I have an account with Watercolor.com, and if you go out to their website and you buy anything except for paints on there, you can get a 10% discount on all the brushes. And they have canvases, or they have different kinds of painting surfaces, and a number of professional art products. But I like their brushes both for my watercolors, and I like them for my oil paints as well. So if you want to get them out there, you can get a good price on them. These Kolinsky sables are fairly expensive. These quill mop brushes are not very expensive at all, but I just like how much water they hold. They just really hold a ton of water. So I'm going to put a little bit of that just clear water on top of this, and I'm going to come back and pick up some of my raw sienna here, and I want to get a little bit of a light yellowish color, and I actually want to add some a little pink in there too. I'm going to put a little bit of this cad red, not much, but just enough to redden it up a little bit. See if we can get that to work. And so let's put in some sky up here that's got some interesting clouds in it up here. A little bit of, it is a sunset, so we want to try to make sure that we indicate that. Another thing I'm going to probably use today that I haven't used for a long time is I have a spray bottle that I like to put on. It's kind of hard to use a spray bottle when you're painting vertically like I do, but I'm going to try to use it a little bit in some spots just to kind of get myself a little bit looser. And I'm going to put in a little gray color here with, you can make a nice gray with burnt sienna and ultra blue. The name Richard is TREKELL.com, Trekel.com. And there are links below in my watercolor paintings where you can find direct links to their website. I mean, it's basically, that's their website. And if you buy something and check out, when you check out, put in a discount code of, there's like 3 different discount codes that you can get by with and get 10% off for, it's kind of a one-time only per customer, but I have 3 different codes and that you can use for buying brushes or whatever. You just can't buy paints with it is the only difficulty. They sell a selection of paints that they don't give discounts on. So anyway, that's my most of my sky here. With that, yes, Giorgio, we do record this lesson. It is recorded about 4 different ways. I have 4 cameras running. I have 3 cameras running here in my studio. YouTube makes a recording that's available. As long as you have that link, you can come back and access the original recording. But I re-edit these videos and put a new version up after I get finished. And so I have an edited version that I put up. And so, okay, that's pretty much the sky. I think maybe I'll put a little more gray in there, but right now it's looking just about the way I want it to. Could use a few more gray spots. Put just a little more over here maybe. Let me stay on top of these mountains here. And maybe a few spots over here. It's not really as gray as I wanted, but it will turn. These brushes have an interesting, they have a nice mop effect. You can actually pick up water with them. Pick up paint off your canvas when it starts to run. They just hold so much water, they just sort of suck it up. And it's really kind of an interesting way to paint with these kind of brushes. Never really tried mop brushes. I've seen other artists use them. I thought, I wonder how it'd be to use that. And so I just decided to try it this time. And okay, Giorgio, you said you had to leave. That's okay, no problem. This will be recorded and you'll be able to see it later. And so don't worry about that. Okay, that's pretty much the sky. I think I'm going to leave it at that right now. I may come back and touch it up a little more later, but I think I'm going to stop with it for now. Okay, get some of this yellow color out of my palette, and I'm going to start looking now at the some of these mountains. Some of the mountains have a nice reflectivity on them. I'm going to try to preserve if I can, and hopefully keep the light, let the sun shine through on these mountains. So like right in here, I've got an area that I want to put in some dark parts of the mountain that are away from the sun, and put that down. I've got a number of areas that are like the sun is hitting on them over here, so I want to preserve that if I can, and sort of soften it off in some areas and pull it down like that. That's just one small part of this mountain over here. Over here we've got some more. There's a lot of snow on this mountain, and if I'm not careful, I'll have the whole thing covered with snow, but I want to show as much of that snow and lighten it up a little bit as I can. Over here we've got a little more of that. I'm just using neutral tint for this now, and trying to use the brush and put as much dark in there as I can on the left side. The sun is coming from the right and it's setting, so we got long shadows we're going to have here on this part of the painting, and I want those to show up, and So this back here can just sort of fade into the sky a little bit, and doesn't have to be very, very explicit, but just enough to show there's something going on back there, further back. This is dark. Okay, this has got some lights in it. And one thing about it I'll show you in a minute. When that dries, we can come back and put some darker colors in there, and we'll actually highlight some more snow. If anybody else has any questions, please type them in the chat window. I have another computer up here at my left elbow that I'm watching while I'm trying to paint, and so I'll try to watch that and hopefully be able to answer your questions as you put them in. It's just a little bit heavy on the color there. Fade it down just a little bit. Got some snow here, some more snow down below here. Okay, so I'm just kind of playing with this. I still only use one brush. This big number one Trekell.com quill mop. Series 8000 is what it says on there, Richard, for your information. Put a little brown in there, change the color a little bit. Okay. Start fading it out a little bit here, get a little bit less. See, coming up here, you can't see my sketch, I'm sure. I put it on very lightly, so I didn't have a lot of pencil marks out here. But I can see it. I penciled in the two little buildings here to make sure I didn't paint over those inadvertently. So that's kind of the... So I'm leaving little pockets of snow here that are floating around, and I'm not putting nearly as many pockets of snow as there actually is in the original photo here. But that's by design. I want to simplify. I'm painting something that's miles and miles and miles across, and I don't want to... I'm trying to put it on a 14-inch wide piece of paper here, which when you do that, you have to simplify quite a bit. So I'm just changing up the color, adding a little bit of my burnt sienna into this mixture of gray I have here on the palette, and let me make sure I know where I am here. Okay, after this area sort of comes down and joins this next layer of mountains. Keep that, I can. There we go. So I'm not trying to slavishly copy the photograph, as you've heard me say before. Try not to do that. I'm just letting the top of this brush kind of do its thing here. I'm not forcing a whole lot to happen. I'm just throwing in some... I'm trying to preserve this area over here on the right. I want to try to make sure I preserve that, because the sun's kind of hitting over there, and it's not hitting over here where I am too much. Some of these areas are a little kind of in shadow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this dry around it, and then come back and put a small layer of paint over that, and you'll still be able to see that snow. It looks lighter, so it's going to tell you it's snow. It just might be in the shadows slightly. Okay, let's see, pull down some things over here. Okay, that's getting much of that mountain painted. This one over here has got a lot of nice, it's got a lot of nice sun shining on it. Colors are a little bit different. I'm going to come back and put a little bit more of this raw sienna in here. Just kind of give myself some highlights back here on this area. Need a little more than that. So far it's a one brush painting, folks. Oh, the name of the copyright-free site that I mentioned, it is called pixabay.com, P-I-X-A-B-A-Y, pixabay.com. And that's where I got this particular photo from. And again, people put all kind of photos out there, and they just, they're free for your use and for your, you can use them however you want. It's a good source for photos. I've picked up several photos from there. The other source I use, Richard, is it's a Facebook page called Photos for Artists, and it is it's on just Facebook. You go to facebook.com and look for Photos for Artists, and you'll find that one. You can join it. You have to join it to be part of their thing, but they give you a PDF file that's indexed and documented with all kinds of paintings in it, photos rather, not paintings, photos of people that have submitted photos for you to use, copyright free. And I've gotten probably more photos of. As a matter of fact, the next one we're going to paint, the one after this, I got from there. And people just put them out there, and they let you paint them. All they want you to do is sort of give them credit and put it back on the site, and people will look at it, and they can see your paintings out there. And so it's pretty nice site. So I'm always looking for material to paint, and if you guys have any photos that you'd like me to try, I would certainly be happy for you to email them to me, and I will give them a try in one of our classes here. Okay, I think that's probably about enough for that right now. I may put just a few more dark spots in this one here when it dries, but that's facing the sun. It's getting a lot of sun hitting on it. So, all right, it's time to move on, and let's get some my lavender color here, violet color. And I want to start coming forward on this next section of mountain here. I'm using blue, alizarin crimson, and my ultraviolet. And I'm probably going to put a little bit of neutral tint in there. And hopefully I'm going to get that color that's in the photograph. I can't show you the photograph while I'm painting live, but when I redo these videos and put them up online, I will overlay that. You'll see the painting or the photo above my palette on that on that re-edited version, so that when you paint it, when you see it after the class here, you will be able to kind of follow along and see what I'm doing and why I'm sort of doing the things I'm doing here. All right, so I'm really kind of experimenting with this brush. I haven't tried to do a whole lot of painting with this brush, these brushes, these mops. And again, you see me getting some rough texture in there. That's because I'm dragging that brush very quickly over the paper. And since I'm on a 300-pound paper, cold press, it has a lot of ripples in there, little dimples, and so those dimples make it jump and miss. So it hits some of the paper and it misses some of the paper, and when it does that, you get these nice, very nice looking skips. This is a much bigger mountain than I'm showing you right now. I'm going to have to add some more in there, and so I'm just pulling together some. The other thing I'm doing is when I come down on the right side of the mountain here, if I want some skips, I want I want them to sort of go this way. If I want them on this side of the mountain, I want them to go this way. So that's all about the brush stroke. Like, how do you do the brush stroke to get the, if you're on the right side of this mountain, I want them to go that way. Okay, that could be a little darker in some areas. I'll pick up some more of my violet, some more of my almost looking like two mountains now because I let some of that dry up above, or two I really want this to be light and faded out down here. I want this to turn into a mist across here. I'll just wipe it out with my paper towel. And there's my mist. Since that's a little wet, that will sort of blend together and pull back together. I'm going to continue on the right side over here with the same type of stuff over here. A bit darker maybe in some areas. Almost too purple, but it will lighten up. Remember, these colors do all lighten up about 20 to 30%, I want to say. Just sort of put some water on the bottom of that and let it blend, soften. With that, come back with your paper towel and sort of scrub it up. So it's not really that dark in the original photo, but I wanted to sort of make sure that I have this distinction here where we can see the mist. Okay, I'm going to keep going this same color. I'm going to change it a little bit. Change the color, vary the color. Don't keep using the same color over and over and over. Even though the photograph tells you that's what you need to do, don't buy it. Because you're trying to make something look like a nice place that you'd like to go, maybe skiing or hiking or something. Okay. Go back and pull some of that out. Just give it some changes there. Okay, don't want to have hard edges down here at the bottom. If you have hard edges down here, it's going to look like you're losing the foggy effect. Because I'm going to put another dark layer of trees, a couple more layers of trees going across here. I think I'm going to, while I got this in my palette here, I'm going to come back and put in a few more things. If you want a little drier brush, you can always take your brush and lay it against paper towel and it will suck some of the water out of that. So you don't have, if you need a thicker paint, and sometimes you do, a good way to, on these kind of brushes is to take it out with the paper towel like that. Okay, so I'm getting some dark areas in there. I want to put some more of those dark areas over here. They're should be a little darker on this side of the mountain. Since that's dried off a little bit, I can come back and put in some darker shapes here. Something like that to just help you see the shadow and light and shadow more. Just to be darker here even. Okay, that's starting to stand out much better now. There's an area in here that's actually in shadow. So let's go put some shadow in there. making it rough, making it soft. A few hard edges here and there, a few soft edges. Okay, over here, put a few more rough textures coming down. All right, I think that's going to be it for the mountains. Now I say that, I say maybe I need to put just a few more little things up here to show you there is some mountain activity going on back there. Not much. Whatever's back there has to be fairly soft and nondescript. I don't want to make it so obvious that your eye goes back there and floats around. Just some light touches back in here. So it looks like I got a couple, 2 or 3 layers of mountains back here that have kind of fog in between them. And so that's my big mountain. All right, we're going to start coming in with some more darker paint now. I'm going to get my neutral tint here. I'm going to get some more of my blue, get those together. That'll give me a nice dark. Put in a little bit of my violet here, get a much darker color. I'm going to even throw in some sap green into this so that I pick up a little bit of that green color. These really don't show that green on the photograph, but again, I'm not trying to exactly imitate the photograph. I'm trying to give myself some blues here and there. This is a case where I would probably like to use my flat. I'm going to go back and get my Sterling Edwards flat brush here, and since these are a little closer, I'm going to put in some vertical. Use this flat brush in a horizontal way and just sort of put in some really darks here. This is not nearly dark enough. You can see the tops of some of these pine trees sitting back here in this area. So I want to just sort of put that in and let you see those go marching across there. There we go. Put some more dark over here. They're all about the same size, which is interesting. So I'm going to take this bottom of this where it hits the next line of trees, and I'm going to do the same thing I did up here with that mountain. I'm going to let it fade out and get foggy, misty looking. So you see how many layers I've got in this painting already? I've got sky, I've got the clouds, I've got about 3 layers of mountains back there, and I've brought these layers closer to us. And now I'm putting in this layer of really dark trees. Putting in some green in there and some spots. I want to start pulling that green out because it's something we're going to have more of as we come forward. The next layer forward is going to have more of that green in it. So let's put some more like this. And let's keep getting this very loose. Get my paper towel out and sort of give myself a little foggy area down here. The other brush I use to make that fog would be my bristle brush that I use, my Sterling Edwards bristle brush. You've seen me use this thing before. I get it wet, and if I get too many hard edges, I can come in here and I can just kind of scrub that out. And all of a sudden it sort of blends together. I can get some really nice, light, foggy areas here. And if I have too hard an edge, this bristle brush will actually take those right out. Okay. Keep going across here. Keep this dark color going with some greens in it. So you've probably seen me paint these kind of things before with this brush, just sideways, just laying it down, letting it paint these trees. Blue, black. I don't know if you noticed, I didn't put any, I hardly wet this paper at all today. Usually I start out with a lot of water, and I didn't do that today. Pretty much wet on dry for the most part. Okay, so I'm getting more fogginess at the bottom of these. Pick up some, push it up. There we go. And we're coming to the end of this string over here. Keep that brush horizontal, you can make these really nice little faint tops of pine trees like a forest would be out there. That's really what I'm trying to do. And as that dries off, I can actually come in and put another layer over the top of it, which I'm going to do anyway. As I come across here, I've got some more layers of that to go. Put in some nice things where this is white behind it. I want you to see the tops of those trees over there. So it just looks like a lot of forest. Looks like a big mountain covered with all kinds of stuff, which is really what I'm hoping for. And as I come back, I'll put a few more dark. See what this does? Putting the dark over the lighter color. It just shows you another layer of trees. I've still got the fogginess going on. And because I'm putting some brush strokes in here like this, you know that mountain is coming down to the left. Okay, let's see here. How much more do I want to do to this? I'm going to start coming down in the next layer and getting a little more green and other colors in them. But just want to put enough here so that you know this is all connected. It's all sort of one string of trees, and it's one part of the mountain. So, okay, with that, let's come down. We're going to take our next layer down. Now this one's got sap green in it, and I'm going to add a little bit of my CAD red by mixing red and green, because they are opposite of the color wheel. I'll start getting a gray, and I can get a grayish color that's brownish red, and you can start seeing that in some of these now as I come across with this next layer of trees. See, it goes down, it gets darker here. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm just trying to compare my places on the original photo here to see if I'm still in the right place. Sometimes it's easy to get lost in these things. Forget where you're going, lose your way. This is another whole row of trees going across here that's further down from the ones behind them. And we're starting to see probably a little more detail in these than we saw in the ones behind them. But again, I'm not making straight edges here, even though they appear in this photograph that this is all nice and straight, and which it probably might be in nature, but I don't want to draw it that way. I don't want to paint it that way. I want to, let's see, I want to make sure I'm not losing my trees. I've got some nice orange trees in here I want to try to save some room for. Over here and like this. There's a couple over here. So I'm just painting now behind areas that I'm going to have some other trees in that are forward. There we go, like this. So So it kind of gets maybe a little boring for you, I don't know, to watch me do this over and over, but that tree, there's a tree there, there's a couple more trees over here. I'm just trying to leave room now. My sketch is so light, I'm having trouble seeing it. There's a tree, I think, right in here, so I'm going to leave room for it. Always challenged to try to figure out how much of the sketch I want to leave on the painting, but and this might be a good place to try to use my water bottle here. Just put a few spots of spritz of water there and let some of those trees soften up, get a little bit, gives a whole different texture when you put something like that on. Yeah, see down in here we got, I'm going to come down this way, this way. These trees may not accurately reflect the photograph, I don't know, but I'm just sort of ad-libbing it now because I've got to pay attention to my painting more than my photo, actually. Put in some more grays, or not grays, but browns. Over here like this. All right, so I'm getting a nice mixture of trees and so every time I put a dark color in front of a lighter value, it shows you more depth. I'm going to have so many layers of depth in this painting, it's going to be unreal. There might even be some snow laying out here, so I'm not going to get too finicky about how much I paint over all of this. Back in here. So I'll move my palette there. Let's see, in here we've got some more. Let's just put this in like this and put a few of these nice looking trees in. I've got a lot of going across here. Okay. All right, so I'm making good use of two brushes here so far today, folks. And it's coming down to the meadow here. This meadow has a nice green, summery green look to it. And the sun setting over that really helps enhance it, the whole idea of this sunset. I'm going to come back here now while I've got this in my brush and put a outline around this little barn building back here. You might be able to see that. I don't know. Maybe not. I've got some more orange trees back here. Come over this way and just put in a whole bunch of stuff there like that. This little barn, little building here, I want to paint around him. So as we come forward, typically these things get darker, more distinct. I'm seeing a lot of light white areas out there in the painting, which I don't want to have all that much white out here. I'm going to go back and cover some of that up, put another layer of trees in here, and maybe cover some of that. There is some snow laying out there by the, according to the photo, but again, I'm not trying to completely laboriously copy that photo. I want to give you an impressionistic look that we've got a lot of trees out here and they're coming across this way. Going back to this side, let me come back and put some more trees. We've got some more bluish looking trees that are in here that all the way down to there actually. So let's put those in. So this is really pretty repetitive and pretty easy. It's just trying to make this look this is kind of in shadow, some of this area here. So I want it to be sort of dark, and painting the shadows in here right now almost for the some of the trees I'm going to put in a minute. I'm going to connect this to that light green color that makes up this. Okay, and let's don't let all that go to waste. Let's put a few spritzes of water in there, let it sort of soften off. Changes the texture. It gives you some nice looking. Got some nice trees in there. I'm going to firm up. All right. How are we doing on time? 46 minutes so far. Okay, so we're making good time. Go back and get my big mop brush now. I think it may be time to see if I can pull in some of this bright green. I'm pulling up my lemon yellow. See what this looks like over here. That is bright. Pulling down some of that color into it. Put a little more of my sap green in there, under here. Something like this. See how fast that covers this big mop brush? Just no stopping it. It just is crazy how much this thing will cover. I'm going to go ahead and put some down here. I'm going to put some darker trees over this foreground, so I'm going to just throw this in. There's really nothing behind this little barn back here. So let's just paint around him. Back here, like this. Okay. Now this starts getting a little more red in it over here. This area has some that lemon yellow and some sap green and some red, and sort of changes the color back in here to a little bit of an orange. It needs a little more brown color. Put in some my raw sienna back here as well. Sort of a changing color, if you will, of the okay, let's see, this barn here. Got a nice orange tree in there I'm going to try to save. Around this building over here, I'm going to come around him and put a little more, some dark stuff. There are some nice dark shadows in there. Now this little angle here I just put in tells you this house is sitting down the hill. Those little things like that just tell you this is sort of a meadow out here that's got some angle to it, and it's all sort of going that way. Up here the same deal. It's really got some dark things under some trees, dark shadows that sort of go this way. Over this way we got some shadows that come back that way. All right, so I'm getting kind of the feeling of a meadow out there with throw some of this in and get some more runniness in there. Make it looser. Two ways to make your painting looser. One is to like use a spritzer bottle and spritz up some of the paint, let it run, just don't get too uptight about it. And then you can also use the old splatter technique, which I usually use when I'm done. I'll come back and splatter in some color of some kind. I'm going to put a roof on this little building right here, like that. It's got a little angle over here. A little bit of this bluish color. And a grayish color down here, like that. And a dark color back here. I don't know if you can see that well or not, folks. It may be a little hard for you to see this, but I'm just sort of putting in enough to define that building. If I leave that white, that'll tell you that's the sun is really hitting on it. So I want that to be that way. Little shadows and that little barn. The little barn over the other side has a similar type roof. I'm going to come back and put his roof on him right now. And I want to paint around and make sure that there's dark on the back side of him so you can see that angle. If you don't see that angle, if you don't see that edge, it's not going to tell you what that is. You've got to see that angle. So I'm putting more dark in here than I probably need to, but I'm going to put some more trees. I just want to show that building off there, and it sticks out. I've got that white area there beside it that is kind of confusing you, so I'm going to cover that over now with some dark. If I can get some dark color here. Some more trees and some things. This stuff has all got shadows coming this way, most of this stuff. So I'm just going to leave that little building set like that. My orange trees I was going to show you here in the this area. They have some nice orange, more orange than that, more red. On one side, this sort of the season is changing a little bit here, and so these things are, get some more yellow in there. More trees over here with stuff going on. Something like that to give you the kind of feeling that we want. Pull out my little script liner here if I can get it, and we'll throw tree trunks. Some of these areas, oops, didn't mean to do that, but what I don't have is the area closed in around it, and I need to sort of put a few more shadows in there like this. Put a few more yellows and greens. Okay, just using this one brush here. Script liner brush, it's called. a bunch of little whites in there. I don't know if you can see them. I can see them and they bother me, so I'm going to try to take some of those out. It's not dark enough back in there. Around this tree, it's probably too wet to do anything. Okay, so I did this whole painting without even drying, pulling out my dryer, hair dryer. Throw in some stuff there. Let's, oh, I forgot to put in my foreground. I want these things to have just a slight coloring on them, not real bright, but just enough to show you their sun is hitting them. Something like that, so to tone it down just a fraction. In the foreground, there's a whole bunch of trees that are going across here, and I don't know if I'm going to put them all in or not, but certainly we can put in some things that look like we have a little bit of a, like that on this brush. So across here we're putting in some trees, just very very much impressionistically up here in this area. So I'm putting it over what's there. Donald Motes, hello from Woodsfield, Ohio. Thank you. Glad you're here. Luis Ortega, thank you. Glad you're here. All right, we're getting about done with this painting. We're going to start on that next one here in a few minutes. I just want to put in some trees here. That's about as bad as I can make it right there. It can't be all perfectly lined, same you got to come in and vary them, make them different widths, different heights. I'm going to leave a little gap here so you can kind of see into the scene, so you don't have to feel that big block. The photograph just had a big block of trees across there, and I didn't like that. Doesn't make for a good composition. Not on 11 by 14 paper, it doesn't. It might make a good photograph, but if you try to put that on your paper, you're going to have it's going to get boring very quickly. It kind of blocks the eye. It keeps people from getting into the painting. So I always like to give the viewer a way to get into the painting, look in there and move around a little bit. I think there's a few more dark areas I want to put in here. Even back here, I'm going to put in some darker areas. It's probably too dark. Let me spritz them out of there a little bit and see if that makes a difference. Not perfect, but it is connecting together those dark areas. Down behind this building here, I want that to stand out. All right, that is a big, deep painting. Got a lot of depth in that thing. And that's really what I was trying for in this painting, is to get a lot of depth. And the focus is really on the mountain and the sun hitting on things. I think I'll stop with that. I'll put my little signature over here on the right side, and we'll move on to the next painting. We've been 59 minutes on this one. Not too bad. All right, so that's my big mountain sunset, and again, that's on Fabriano Artistico paper, 300-pound cold press, and hope you like that. I hope you can give it a try. The links for sketches and all the related photographs, value map, are in the links are below my below what you're watching here. They'll also be on the final version when I put a new version up in about 3 days or so. Let me take this, I'm going to get this off of the bottom here. Okay. So folks, if you want to take a few minute break, I'm going to change over my board. I actually have the next sketch underneath this one, so it's not going to take me very much time at all. But if you need to go get a coffee or take a bathroom break or whatever, go do that, please. And I'll be right back with you. I'm going to go over to the computer and actually show you what I did for the next photo. I'm going to turn my microphone off because when I rip this off, it makes a lot of noise. Okay, folks, I'm back online now. Got my microphone back on. Got to change my water. Let me get this dirty water out of here. Okay, I'm going to go over to my computer and just show you a couple things. I didn't do too much to this. I did a value map and I did a sketch, but this is pretty much the sketch. Let me go to my computer and I'll be right back. Leave my dirty palette for you to look at while I change places. And come back to my computer here. And say, there I am again. And so I want to show you now this original photo of this blue heron. This one came from a guy on Photos for Artists named Paul Green, and I really appreciate this. It's got a lot of detail in the bird itself, and in the background is all nicely modeled and loose and impressionistic, which you can do with a good camera if you have the depth of field ability to change that. The grid is the 4x5 grid. Again, I cropped this down to 11 by 14 to fit 11 by 14. So the grid is there. The value map is pretty basic. I just wanted to kind of pull some dark and medium colors in to around the image of this heron, and that's it. Pretty simple. I don't know how simple it's going to be to paint. I've never done one of these before, so you're going to see me go through it first time. I may make some mistakes, but I've made mistakes before. That is the sketch, and I have it done. I have it on my board. I'm going to go clean out my palette. And again, we're going to start on this. It's going to be in... it's going to be on 140-pound paper. And let me put my images up here at the top of my easel so I got something to look at. Okay, here we go. All right, again, I told you this is from Photos for Artists Facebook page, and the photographer's name is Paul Green. So if you're interested in that, go out there and check that. If you'd like to get places where you can get free photos that you can paint without copyright infringement, they'll give you the right to use them, to make commercial use of them, sell them, whatever. You don't owe the photographer anything. So that's pretty nice. There's not very many websites that do that. That's pixabay.com is the one I just found recently, and I just saw another one just recently as well. I haven't done much with it other than I kind of logged on. It's called unsplash.com, I believe. Maybe it's unsplash.org. UNSPLASH, unsplash.com. Check that and see if it's .com or .org. I'm not sure, but I haven't taken anything off of it yet, but they seem to have a lot of photos that are copyright free. But they also have ads that stick in there, and some of the photos are not free. So you got to be careful of what you take from there. Just in my initial looking at that particular website, you might pick up a photo that's not really copyright free. Okay, so I told you we're going to do this painting on the 140-pound hot press paper. I think I said that a couple times maybe. Hot press paper has very little dimples on it. It's almost smooth. So when you're painting something very detailed like this, with little furry things coming out of the bottom, whatever, it's nice to have that smooth texture. So I'm going, now that you can see that, I'm going to come in and take my kneaded eraser and take away some of these marks here, just to, so I don't have that pencil mark showing through, particularly along the white areas of the neck here, the head, the top is white. I want to still be able to see where that is, but I don't want to have that pencil mark stick out. So probably you might be able to see that barely, but these areas where it's going to be fuzzy, I'm going to use the fine brush and try to paint that in. Okay, so this background is just really a lot of green, and it's all modeled, and I think I'm going to go back and get my get this big, it's the number one mop, since it holds so much water. I'm going to get it and I'm going to start putting some in. Now see, it's going to run a lot more on this paper than it does on my 300-pound paper. Still have a little bit of a yellow in this brush, I noticed, but that's not a big problem. Put a little fine line along here to make sure the water stops when I start coming down the page with that. So we've been going about 1 hour and 8 minutes. We spent about an hour on that first painting, and I don't know how fast this is going to go, but I almost expect it to go much faster than an hour. But again, I don't know, since I haven't done one of these before. Go around this very carefully, and just get it kind of nice and wet all over. That just enough wetness in there that will help that whatever paint I put on is going to just sort of blur and blend. It's not going to create a lot of hard edges. At least I hope that's the case. Theoretically, it shouldn't create hard edges. It should just blend and blur. Okay. All right, so let's get some greens out here. I've got this sap green I've got, which is sort of an olive-looking green, but I want some green with. I'm going to use my blues and yellows. I'm going to pull out my primary yellow here, make a big puddle of that. I'm going to go over and get my ultra blue, and you see the green I get with ultra blue, and sorry folks, I didn't have my palette turned on there for you, but I'm just now starting to use it, so I have to keep remembering that I have an audience that can't see if I don't can't see the palette if I don't turn it on for you. When I edit these, that's not a problem, but when I'm doing a live presentation, it's a little bit difficult. I've got to remember. I use my left brain while I use my right brain here. So you see I'm getting different colors using the primary yellow and my ultra blue. I get this color green using my lemon yellow and my blue. I get a different color green, and then by just using sap green right out of the tube over here, I get a third green. And then I've got another blue color that I could put into my two greens, and I get really about 4 different colors of green. So I can get a lot of that. And then if I want to dull it down a little bit, I'll pull out some of my red. I'll stick it here in the middle, and I can kind of move that into any of these and get a grayed down greenish color. So let's see what happens now as I start putting in this background over this surface that I've wet down. I'm picking up different greens. I need more dark in there. It's not dark enough at all. And this is 140-pound paper too, folks. Look at it, it's starting to buckle on me, which is why I like to paint with 300-pound paper most of the time. Let's go up here like this. I'm getting that running going on. Okay, so I'm using my dark blues and different colors. I'm getting a nice mottled surface back here, throwing in some yellow here and there. I think maybe before I start painting this bird, I'm going to actually dry this paper. Come down here like this, like that. And let's get some more blues in there, more yellows. I'm not painting the bird yet, but you can see the bird for sure. A little red in there. Too much red. Come back and put a little green on top of the red, and all of a sudden I've got a gray again. Okay. Okay, I'm just using up whatever's in my palette here, and whoops, I forgot to do this area up here. How did I manage to miss that section? Okay. Take some reds, take some yellows, come back in and overlay some of these areas. Just leave it mottled, and since it's nice and still soft, still runny, mix these up and just want to kind of make it look like there's trees or bushes or something all around behind this guy, and something like that. Okay, I'd say that's pretty much the background that I need. And I did that all with this #1 mop. It just holds so much paint or water and paint. It's unbelievable. Some of that off so it doesn't run around too much. Pretty close on the values there. Let's say maybe I could put a few more dark splotches in some areas. Don't run down there, you. Throw a few brighter yellows up here. I had two colors in my brush. I had the blue and the blue on one side and yellow on the other, and all of a sudden I get this double brush loading thing going on here. Just a little more in here. Okay, I'm overkilling it now. All right. That blue really comes through. Pop it on there. Okay, whoops, let's see. All right, I think I'm going to stick with that. It's not as bright of colors as are in the original photo, but I'm going to leave it at that. And we're going to come back now and start working on this bird's head. And I'm going to use some finer, smaller brushes and leave that green in there because I may want to come back and use some of that. But let's see, a brush about this size may help me in here. Let's see. Oh, I was going to dry this. I'm going to dry it. Stop and dry this thing because it's still buckled like crazy. Okay, I turn my microphone back on now. So I don't think it's completely dry, but it's awfully close. Around the bird, I think, is where I want to keep it mostly dry. So let's see if we can get going here. So what color do I need for this bird? I've got to get this really bright blue. That's sort of, it's got just a little green in it, it looks like to me. I'm going to see if my cyan blue, which has a little bit of a different color. Let's see here if it looks like. It's pretty close. Could put a little blue in that, I suppose, if I wanted. Or not blue, I could put a little green in it if I wanted, but right now I'm going to just stick with that. I think I just need a bigger brush to paint this little top notch here, top notch his head. This is where the blue heron gets its name from. Let's put this in and get it coming down like this, like this. I'm using cyan blue with a little bit of ultra blue in it to kind of give me a different color. Cyan blue seems to have a little bit of green in it. I'm going to put a touch of green in my brush and just see if that helps. I got this green laying over here. Yeah, so it does. So this is kind of detailed and a bit tedious, but that's what you have to do when you paint these kind of scenes. You have to paint in detail. Take your time. Let's see here if I can get a little bit of water in there. Okay. Coming down the back here, we've got, this is where I probably want my small brush. Down here, because I want to leave these little feather-like protrusions here. If I stop talking, folks, it's because I'm thinking or concentrating. This comes down and actually goes off into something like that. All right. Take some of that same blue. Let's see if we can get a little bit of it on this beak here. I'm pulling fast and getting dry brush effect out of this. Over here it comes down and over in this area we've got under the eye, like this. Bring back some blue. I'm going to throw in just a little bit of water to sort of loosen it up a little bit so it's all one color. We've got some interesting orange color here. I don't know if I can get it, but see what my green and my cad red give me. Don't quite give me that color. Let me see what the alizarin does over here. A little more red. Put that. So I'm just kind of experimenting with my colors here, folks, because I haven't done this before, so I haven't worked this out. I don't know what colors we're going to do. It's not the right color of orange, but I may not be able to get it with my paints here. Comes up this way. See, if you're working in acrylics, yeah, Richard, I see hot press does tend to buckle, probably more. I mean, I'm using 140 pound, but I'm sure it buckles more than 300 pound. I don't even know if you can even find 300 pound hot press. I haven't looked to see, but certainly you can see the effect here. All right, there's a little bit of that. A little bit of that yellow up here. And then we've got those colors in the beak here are more gray, I guess I want to say, gray, blue-gray. Excuse me, having a coughing spell here. Gray it down, put a little red in there maybe. Darker down here. And pull it back and dry brush it back this way. And put a few more streaks along here. And some dark streaks along here. A couple of things in there. All right, so think that's starting to look a little bit like the beak I want it to look like. And we got a few little splotches of blue up in here in this area. And there is some blue-gray. Running out of room on my palette here, folks. I'm going to have to clean off a little section here. My blue, and pull out a little bit of my burnt sienna. See if I can get a... Now this has a... that really needs to be bigger brush and looser. Yeah, the paint doesn't, see how that on dry brush, on dry paper, it just made a hard, so almost like a hard edge right there because the paper was dry. But I can come back and maybe take my handy dandy brush here and see if I can. This bristle brush, you can usually scrub out rough edges if you don't let them dry too long. Bristle brushes are kind of fun to work with. Just a little bit of... Okay, now, don't have much left. We got a couple of rings around the eyes up here, and that'll just about be it, I think. Let's see if I can find that yellow. Maybe that's my bright yellow here. Let's see. Looks like that might be the right color. Let's see here. I got a dark, almost a black going around there. Well, I noticed these Kolinsky sable brushes, for some reason, don't have a great point on them. Maybe it's my fault, I don't know. But right now I just need to, first time I've ever used these brushes, so I don't know. Yeah, that's a little more definitive. Okay, I think, other than maybe putting some more blotches of yellow and stuff inside this, this area here to sort of lighten it up a little bit, maybe, I don't know. I'm just picking out some of my, I think it looks a little too dull to me. Certainly looks that way on the camera, on the camera, but on the what you're able to see. So let's just kind of make another coating over this very quickly here and see if we can put another coat of something on here to change it up a little bit. Add another layer. I'm just taking this junk that's in my palette, putting it with some water and throwing it on. It may not look any better, I don't know. Still looks awfully dull on the monitor behind me when I'm looking at the monitor. It looks kind of dull, but all right. I think I'm gonna belabor this much more. I think it's see what happens there. Just throw a few blurbs in there and make sure it doesn't run down on my existing painting. And over here somewhere, I'm going to find a place to, I can't stick my name on it now, it's too wet. So, okay. Anyway, folks, I'm going to zoom back. We did that in about 30 minutes, I want to say. And hope you like that. I hope you give it a try. It's a lot of fun to try to do these animals. I have a commission coming up that I have to do an owl. So I'm working on trying to figure out how to paint an owl. But anyway, I thought I would practice on this blue heron. I thought this was a nice photo I got from Photos for Artists. So I hope you like it. Hope you give it a try. And check out my website, check out my Facebook page, and get the sketches and the value maps and the original photos below this link, below this video, and give it a try. And I'd like to know how you do. So the other thing I want to mention is the last two painting sessions, I've created 2 videos out of each painting session. One is a full-length narrated, what you see here, live, full-length, almost no cuts out of it all unless I cut out where I'm blow drying a painting or something. But the other one's a time lapse, and I speeded it up to maybe 400x. So I put some music with it. It cuts the time down from about maybe an hour, hour and a half to down to about 18 minutes or something like that. So if you're in a hurry and you don't want to watch the whole painting, you can watch the time lapse version. I'm running a test right now, and both my time lapse version and my full-length version are running neck and neck in terms of views. So I don't know if new people are watching the time-lapse view that wouldn't watch the full-length view or not. But I'd like to have some feedback. If you like that, let me know if you prefer that or if you have a preference for one or the other. And again, if you have some paintings that you'd like me to try, send me photos, send me your email address, and I'll communicate with you that way. So that's all I wanted to say now. Check out my links below also to buy some products if you're interested in brushes. I got some discounts there you can get. I have an Amazon.com shopping page where almost all this stuff I use is listed there, so you can see what it is. The Trical.com is another site. And so anyway, that's all I have to say for today. I thank you for being here, and until I see you again, this is Larry Hamilton saying so long for now. Bye-bye.